A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very big thank you to Elets for bringing in a relevant and interesting topic in this forum. I'm Vivek Dilip, the CEO of miBot. We've been making edutainment bots right from the K to I is what we've kind of coined it, where we've been kind of making bots right from the right from something like a coding pen all the way where you can do programming, and then even for the industries and universities as well. So maybe we can start off by having a small self-introduction of the esteemed panel that we have here. So maybe start with you, Sheerin.
Hello, good morning everyone. I'm Sheerin. I'm the acting principal at the Indian Academy, Dubai.
Hello, I'm Safa Abdul Khader. I'm the instructional coach and head of department working for Taaleem.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Junaid Ghatala. Basically, I'm a pediatrician. I'm the founder, correspondent, and senior principal of Olive International School in Madras, India.
Good morning, everybody. Dr. Tim, and I work with Bloom Education as the Director of Academic Quality Assurance and School Improvement. Nice to see you all this morning.
Okay. So this is a question to all the panelists here. So my first question here was, how can we ensure STEM curricula stay agile and adaptive in response to the industries that are rapidly evolving? So maybe Sheerin, start with you.
Yeah. When we talk about agility and flexibility, the one thing that comes to our mind is having a feedback loop. Now, we understand that the industry has certain requirements, while the schools are not really being able to provide them with that. There's always this conversation that the schools are not readying the children for the university, and the university is not readying the children for the workforce. So I think the most important thing to being flexible is having a feedback loop, so that each time the industry has a certain requirements, it passes on to the upstream, so that we in the schools can do what the universities need.
I think agility comes from humility, like admitting that we don't have all the answers. One of the things that we have been doing in our school is inviting guest speakers from industries, not just to speak to the students, but also to co-plan projects. So, see, when a curriculum coexists with input from people in the industry, then that's just, the curriculum is living organism. It's just not a static document anymore.
Yeah. Basically, what the schools need to do is to prepare their students so that they will be able to get a proper understanding, and that will correlate with the industry requirements. Today, that is the biggest problem. Schools are doing what they are usually doing for the last 20, 30 years, and the workforce is screaming that schools and colleges and universities, once they pass out, they are not able to employ them. They're not able to, those graduates are not able to understand what the requirements are. So there has to be a proper collaboration and cooperation between the industry and the educational institutions. That is the most important thing today. Because what the schools are going to do today is going to be out of action for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, curriculum agility is more of a myth rather than a reality. In my sort of 30 plus years in education, I think we're still teaching the same curriculum pretty much as we were all of those years ago to what we're teaching today. Whilst we try and squeeze in as ambitious and innovative teachers, ways to broaden the curriculum experience of children, extracurricular activities we all do in our schools, the fundamentals of the curriculum really in terms of meaningful reform really haven't happened. We keep talking about the need for them to happen, but in terms of implementing this change, I still think we're at the beginning of that journey rather than anyway through that journey at all. So it's much needed, as the other panelists have alluded to, but at the moment we're not quite there yet. And so I think that's where we need to collaborate more effectively in order to make this a reality on behalf of the children that we teach and getting them ready for life in the real world.
So I think when we had a pre-panel discussion, right, so we were talking about the real world problems that are happening. So maybe I wanted to kind of deep dive into some of the subjects where but just before that, some interesting facts, right? So I just noted down. So by 2035, 65% of the jobs that we have currently today are not going to be relevant, right? So let's say there's even an error of 50%. It's still a big number. 1 out of 3 jobs are going to be obsolete, right? So which is quite a scary prospect, right? So another one is, as per the WEF, 85 million jobs would be taken away due to automation. However, 97 million jobs would be created, but it would require tweak skills, all right? So that's something we need to kind of train, like we had said, the feedback loop, industry, university, schools, but a lot of times it's kind of unfair that the school does get the brunt of it. A lot of times, more often than not, that's something that we kind of discuss. So that's why I just want to open up the topic, and maybe I'll start with you, Dr. Hughes. So how do you assess whether STEM curricula is truly industry aligned or just theoretically sound? Because your background has been currently as well on the quality assurance and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as a STEM teacher and a former STEM leader and someone who's worked in industry doing cancer research, I think we need to go back to this acronym STEM, and I think it is still a concept rather than the reality. In schools around the world, children do not attend STEM lessons. They attend chemistry, physics, biology lessons, mathematics. Engineering might be on the curriculum, but sometimes it's an option. Technology, again, if you're lucky, because lots of resources are required. So the experience of students is more still about that separate disciplines being taught. And then, of course, we try to join them together, and we talk about STEM clubs after school, enrichment activities, and we try and do links with industry and universities, but it's the schools that seem to drive this, because we try and respond, as Safa said, we try and respond in terms of that feedback loop to your graduates are not ready for industry, not ready to study at university. So to answer your question, until we get industry specialists working with university admissions leads across the world, with schools coming together to look at fundamental curriculum reform, then we're not going to solve this issue. And I think we talk about content. Just about every lesson I go into to observe, it's always the teacher teaching the content. And the skills are sometimes assumed, but they're not. And I think what will be useful to quality assure and assess all of this is to think about, as a world, we need to think about, by the end of early years, what should a child know and understand with regards to STEM, and which skills should they have? And then similarly, by the end of primary or elementary, middle, high, so you've almost got that passport of skills into industry, into university, that can be assessed collaboratively by the industry specialists and the university admissions teams or lecturers. So until that collaboration emerges, and there are pockets of it around the world, but until it's mandated, I think we're going nowhere. And I do think often we have the situation where teachers leave school, they go to university, and then they qualify as a teacher and they go straight back to school. And the teachers themselves have never been in industry, never sat and done a day of work, if you like, in that sort of industrial context. And until we mandate teacher placements in industry, so there's a connection, so the teachers then understand this is what we need to be teaching the children from day one, so we can get to that industry and be successful at it in the future. Until that is done, we're always going to be talking about gaps, and all we talk about is gaps. What can the children still not do, rather than what can they do? And that's something that I think we all need to work together on.
Yeah, very interesting perspective. To Sheerin, the next question is to you. So how can schools at the K-12 level realistically forecast future industry needs and incorporate them into early education?
Yeah, thank you for the question. When you said forecast the future, that's where I stumbled, because how do we forecast the future? Because it's just like you said, those many jobs that are there in the industry now, they are not going to be there. And earlier it used to take a decade probably for a particular skill to become obsolete. Now it's come down to 6 years or 5 years. And then if you get into an IT industry, then I think it's hardly 18 months to 2 years that the skills become obsolete. So planning for the future skill sets, which is content related or just technological related, is quite a challenge. However, technology is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It will get better with time. But in our schools, like when we talked about the acronym STEM, we usually look at technology, which is something feeding into the maths lesson, feeding into the science lesson or the English lessons. But we don't look at that, let's have maths, science, English, languages feeding into technology, because that's the big thing. Just like we look at reading literacy as something big, we don't look at digital literacy in the same way. We have one ICT period in the week. If we are extremely lucky, we might have 2. We will have one ICT teacher for the whole of primary. If we are lucky, we might have 2. But in many schools, we'll have one primary, one secondary, one higher secondary, if at all. And that's it. So how much of collaboration, how much of innovation can come out with that amount of workforce? So keeping that in mind, when I talk about STEM and how we are doing it in the school, knowing that those things we don't know definitely, but we do know that the industry will require soft skills along with technology. Soft skills like resilience, soft skills like problem solving, conflict resolution, because nowadays all jobs are requiring people to work collaboratively. And you're not just collaborating with the team of people in your own country or in your own place. You're even collaborating sitting here with somebody in China, somebody in Mexico, somebody in Kenya. There are differences in attitudes, differences in perspectives, cultural differences. So you've got to train children who are good listeners, who are ready to accept different people's perspectives, respecting that, and yet working together. I look at STEM as that opportunity, because most of our STEM projects, whether it is in a lesson or is it over a term, it's mostly collaborative. And that, I find, gives a simulated environment for the children to develop these soft skills which do not develop in another lesson, which is a maths lesson or a standalone lesson. So I look at STEM as giving me the opportunity as a school leader in my space, where I can develop these skills, because unfortunately our curriculum doesn't allow us to have a subject of resilience or a subject of conflict resolution. We do it as a life skill. Again, looking at it something like extra. Some children get the opportunity, some not. So yes, I look at STEM that way, developing technological skills as well as soft skills.
Well said. I think, so one of the key takeaways was that, get the fundamentals right. I mean, just an add-on is, like you said, so just for my understanding, so currently this would come as an extracurricular activity and it's not part of any of the typical board, right? Or
it's not part of the board, but now that we understand the importance, we can't wait for the board to innovate itself. I'm sure it will, but by the time I will lose my children who are there in grade 1, they would be in grade 10, and I would have lost their years. in thinking about board to take action. So we do have a STEM curriculum, we have a STEM period, and we have outsourced because knowing that our teachers are not so equipped to be able to deliver those STEM lessons. However, even while we have outsourced, we have ensured there's collaboration between us and the people who are coming. So they are not coming with a standalone curriculum which has no alignment with us. And by doing that, we've shared our own math, science and language curriculums with them, and they have aligned that curriculum with us. So our teachers are collaborating with them each term so that we have something good for the children which doesn't look and sound as standalone. So we have STEM as a curriculum, but until grade 8. Because again, because the board doesn't have it, and our board grade parents and children want to get grades. For that, they want to study maths, science, English, psychology, whatever is there in the boards. So that's our handicap.
So to Dr. Ghatala, so the question is, in areas where STEM is picking up, is there specific teacher programs? Because she was just touching about the subject of teachers, right? And is there any resistance because you're coming from Tamil Nadu and your school is in Chennai? Is there any resistance from the teachers for the adaptation of STEM per se?
You see, the whole concept of education, especially in India, we have different curricula. We have the regional boards, we have the central board, we have the international boards. So, and each board is planning how to teach and how the teachers have to be trained. Unless all these three boards get together. And another problem is, why are the schools teaching separately each subject and not STEM as a program? Because first of all, they're not trained, and the examinations are all concentrating on each subject individually. They've got a physics exam, they've got a chemistry, biology, English, maths. So unless the Ministry of Education gets together, puts their head together and plan that at least for the next 5 or 7 years, they would try to integrate this and make STEM a part of every school, irrespective of whichever curricula they're doing, they're not going to help anything. And also the teachers, why do they get resistance to the STEM education? Because they themselves are not trained. They have no idea. And they know that if they're going to do that, they have to do it on their own. They have to go and learn on their own, spend money. Unless the university or the schools themselves conduct programs and train the teachers, then they will be able to implement it and teach in the respective schools. So unless these things happen, I think it's a far cry, and it's going to take a long time before this is going to be implemented, and resulting in the disparity between what a graduate learns and what the industry requires. It's a sad thing.
Right. I think even during the pre-panel discussion, Dr. Hughes was mentioning about, for the past 20 plus years, we've been talking about STEM a lot. But end of the day, in reality, like you said, it could be a far cry, right?
You can't sit, for example, a STEM GCSE or a STEM A-level. They're still the separate subjects. And of course, in the UK curriculum, for example, we have further maths, but we don't have further physics, further chemistry, further biology, further engineering, further technology. So it's just maths. So, and this has been the case forever. Except to some extent we've gone backwards, because even when I was at school, I could do things like S-level chemistry or S-level physics, that special kind of beyond A-level option to bring in that real academic rigor prior to university was there. Now, they don't exist. So to some extent, we're actually taking backward steps rather than forward steps.
Right. So to you, Safa, so school internships, I mean, that's something that we spoke about, are picking up, but do they often become formalities? So, I think a lot of times kids are just going there to just get a certificate, right? Just a mere certificate. So how can we transform them into impactful skill building experiences, right, for students?
Okay, so you are correct. Like, it is like a procedure for them to finish a year of internship. We tried something like a flipped model, where we made the students of grade 9s and 10s to come up with a plan, like what do they want out of a small internship program. And then we paired one of our grade 9 students with one of the retail startup company, Washman here in UAE. And we were surprised to see a child, she's just grade 9. She just developed a user feedback loop using simple Google Forms and analytics. And she spotted some of the feedback from the users of that product that they were missing some issue at the time of checkout. So she mentioned this to the company, and they fixed it. So here, the students are made as creators, not just as observers. So this is what happens when it comes to internship. They're often treated as, okay, go and observe what's happening, rather than giving them a chance to contribute to something different. So that idea should be changed when it comes to internship. We need to start giving students, starting from their high school, slowly, like options. We don't have the time when it comes to the curriculum coverage and things like that. But then it's a good idea always to have some time for that university career readiness. So if the model is being tailored a little bit, the internship becomes like incubators with a real impact.
So I think you said about internships, like in professionals other than medicine, that is not taking place. In medicine, for example, a student finishes 5 years or 5.5 years of his medical college. Then he goes for a minimum of 1 year internship, compulsory internship. In that internship, he gets actual hands-on experience. He's treating the patients under the guidance of his senior professors, and he's allowed to do everything practically in surgery, assist the surgeon. So he knows everything. It's a hands-on experience. He's not just going and observing what to do. He's actually taking part. But this has been going on in medicine for the last 50 years. But I don't know why the other industries, other things have not taken a clue from medicine, because medicine is, we are dealing with human beings. You can't afford to take risk. That is the only thing that they have evolved over this 50, 60 years, that internship means practically you are involved in treating and doing other than anything else. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Junaid Ghatala happens to be a pediatrician as well. So then he got into the education field, right? So that's something very interesting. So a doctor's insight. So, I mean, just a follow-up question, right? So Sheerin did speak about, up to 8th grade. So what exact timeline do you think an internship would be an ideal case scenario according to you?
Yeah, in schools.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I think starting grade 9 onwards.
Okay.
So give them a small chance to do a project, intern with one of the companies that they are interested in. And then grade 10, give them a term. When it move on to grade 11, give them like 2 or 3. And then grade 12, give them like a month of internship, if that's possible.
You wanted to?
The thing is, days back when I was in school, students were not given the opportunity of standing and talking in front of a class. They had this stage fear. I remember myself in grade 7 or grade 8 when I was asked to be taking part in a debate. I was a very introvert and very shy type of boy. So when I was standing in front of about 2 or 3 classes with the teachers standing in the panel, and I started just sweating. My mouth became dry and I couldn't speak anything. I got so embarrassed. See, those kind of issues happened those days, but today in our school, we train students even in the primary grades, say once in a week or fortnight, they get an opportunity to prepare 2 or 3 minutes of a talk, stand in front of the class and read it out, spell it out. So that nervousness and stage fear over period of time goes away, so that when they go for the internship, they can really have the confidence, they will prepare well, and benefit from the internship and the mentorship.
Right. So, yeah.
Like when we spoke about internships, like in the school environment, and if we are not getting somebody outsourced, some other organization helping us, in the school environment, we have our inclusion department. So what we have done for our psychology students, because that's in-house we could manage, that as high secondary psychology students, they are working as interns for our inclusion department. So when we have a situation, especially in situations where a child will probably benefit by talking to another child rather than to an adult. So we kind of train those children, of course, to have those little conversations, but we are in a way giving them internship or giving them very real life experiences of handling a case. So that was a little possibility we found within the school we could manage. Another thing we have tried to do of recently is that some of our children who are, again in high secondary, I'm talking about children who show interests in the line of medicine. So we have a little clinic, of course. It's again, whatever we could manage within the school system. Since we have a clinic, so again, if we have had identified children who are aspirational to either become doctors or nurses or get into medicine, we have again made a kind of a rota for them where they can go and spend some time in the clinic and assist the doctor. So in a way, a little hands-on and real life experiences within their own system. So these were the two initiatives that we've done, and we are looking at expanding that with having children even going to be on the reception sometimes, shadowing teachers and shadowing even maybe myself as a principal over there. So they would spend a day with me, shadowing me, and then anything that I am doing, they're at part of that discussion. Of course, if there's anything confidential, that's a different matter. But otherwise, anything administrative, even going into the lessons for lesson observation with me. So that's again something we're trying to make them feel that yes, you are a contributor as much. And yes, as a kind of a real life internship, if you would want to call it. Here.
Yeah, I think most schools, we have that 2-week-long work experience placement. Typically when the children are in grade 10, 11 or 12, and it's great. The children do always generally come back and talk positively about that experience, but it is just that 1 week or 2 weeks, and I can remember doing a 4-year degree, if you like. My first degree was in chemistry, and in my third year I had the entire year in industry, working as a chemist. That's when I learnt the art of being a chemist, but it wasn't until we got to university stage, and it was fantastic, but it was arguably too late. And children could have had more entrenched experience of the real world throughout their schooling years, so they have better information, if you like, even to make those choices. So you know in your heart as well as your brain that I'm making the right step for me, because I've got all of that experience to choose from and to call upon. And I think that's really important, that we look at how careers and work-related experience starts to come in earlier in the child's education rather than leaving it till it's too late.
I think all of us agree internships do play a significant part, and in turn does end of the day pave way to something like an innovation, right? So my question to you, Dr. Hughes, was how can international schools, especially in UAE, contribute to the ambition of becoming a global innovation hub?
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, right across the world, countries have got this challenge, haven't they, about setting a vision, establishing a vision for innovation. I do think, however, we need to start in our schools and really thinking, well, what is your school's definition of innovation? What does it mean to be innovative in your school? And if we have that UAE-wide discussion, and we understand what each other's schools are doing with regards to innovation, then we might be able to create, for example, innovation hubs, innovation centers of excellence. You can't be innovative necessarily at everything. So it could be schools have put robotics on their curriculum and can really specialize in that. Other schools might even do innovative thought innovative thinking. We know about, for example, Einstein's famous thought experiments. So we have to really understand, well, what is this definition of innovation? How can we fit in? And then through collaboration, establish these innovation centers of excellence, and so collectively together that all ends up at the overall country's ambition about being that world leader in innovation. But until we foster collaboration at the school level and really understand what we're all contributing to that big picture, then it's going to be a bit piecemeal until we actually connect more effectively.
Right. So I think he's talking about the collaboration, which is a very key aspect. So my question to you, Safa, is what are the barriers preventing effective research collaboration between schools, universities, and then industries? I think it would be unfair to say school and industries because, it's not a direct link, right? And then how can such something like this be kind of dismantled?
Okay. One of the most overlooked barriers, the misaligned language. What I mean is not the language that we speak, but then what success means in school is often designed by assessments, rubrics, curriculum plan. But what success in an industry looks is just how to solve a problem fast, even if it's imperfectly. So to dismantle that, I think we need to start exposing our children to real world problems, which majority of the schools are doing, but also teach them and give them a space where they can make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Give that safe space where mistakes are allowed.
So to you, Dr. Ghatala, is our obsession with STEM preventing students from becoming agile problem solvers? Should we be teaching critical thinking instead of subjects? I know it's a little deep question, but
the thing is, we have to understand basically when parents put their children in school, later on in college, they want results. They want to be on the top. There are some parents who are so particular that their child comes first in class, gets 100 in every subject. And there are others, parents who say that don't pressurize him. So with that kind of thing, it's very difficult for the school as it is to have a common way that STEM is going to be taught to everybody. It's very difficult. And as I said previously, the curricula itself is so different. And basically in the regional curricula, they only tell you to learn by rote, basically. So you're not allowing the child to think. He's not able to think critically. As far as possible, at least in the international curricula, in our school, what we do, we tell the teachers that please give the topic in any subject what you're dealing to the students so that they will read and come. They are not going to be passive listeners. When they already read what topic the teacher is going to take the next day, they have an idea and they're able to concentrate. And the teacher is not going to teach straight away in the first 15 minutes out of the 40 minutes. They're going to ask questions. What did you understand from that particular topic you read? How is it going to change? What do you think about any changes you would like to do? So and after that, when she gets feedback from a few students, then she starts teaching. So the students are able to comprehend, remember, understand much better than if it's only going to be a didactic lecture. And the concentration level for a student is not more than 25 minutes. So if you're going to have a 40 minutes or a 45 minutes period, half the time it is going above his head. So until we do a proactive type of education, only then there's going to be benefit for the students. And then it will be acceptable and you will get results. That's what I think.
to you, Sheerin. What are so in your schools, what are you doing that supports the goal with respect to innovation? I think we were talking about innovation a lot. Or a lot of times, I know we're just merely ticking the boxes, right? So what do you think you do differently?
Yeah, I feel we all started with ticking the boxes. It was that we all realized, everybody is doing it, we also have to do it. Okay, she is asking for it, and so we have to do it. So we all started the journey with ticking the box. But yes, in the last 10 years that I'm seeing in the different schools that I have worked, though it started ticking the boxes, it has taken the passion of the teachers again. They have got passionate about it. With social media coming up, Instagram and LinkedIn coming up, and people sharing what they're doing in their classrooms, that's again a big motivator for the teachers, because they are seeing, okay, fine, they also have a similar setup. They also may have had this kind of resource crunch that maybe my school has, but they have done something. People are connecting with each other on social media so that they get an idea as to, if you're doing that, I have these challenges, how can I do it? So from ticking the boxes, it's becoming more and more real. We are not there yet. It's a long journey. And one of the reasons again being that the teachers are having to do it on their own, which in the discussion we have taken up this point, that the teacher feels that if it's something new and this is something I like, then now it becomes my responsibility to read, to learn, to collaborate, because the schools are not doing enough, sadly. Maybe it's the finances, I don't know, whatever it be, but the schools are not doing enough, as well as the policymakers handcuff the schools, because of the policymakers have made the policies which are so much romanticized, so much the standardized assessment results. If we are pulled up for the results that the GL results are happening at the end of the academic year, obviously that the teacher's focus is how to bring up the GL results, how to bring up the asset results. So the teacher has to manage both, and she falters. So again, my plea is to the policymakers, to the curriculum designers, at that level, not at the level of the school. We know that in the school we are adapting it. We are looking at it and we are making changes. But at the level where the board exams or the standardized exams, if those policies can be changed over there, then I think we'll have more flexibility in the school to invest in these things. Currently we are investing how to make the children do the test best. So if we are doing CPDs, we are talking about that. If we are investing resources, the school is investing resources, it's investing for that. If the focus becomes this, then the schools will invest in that. So I think somewhere around it comes to that layer who's deciding these things to take action, because the schools are doing quite a bit.
Right. But that just gets me thinking, would parents also, like the awareness for parents, also is very important in this entire, when you're connecting the dots, talking about, the schools, you're talking about the boards, and because end of the day, Dr. Ghatala was mentioning, end of the day, unfortunately, a lot of kids are looked at how much marks you score, and that exactly what a parent would be looking at. Somebody who's getting 50, but who may be having much better critical thinking or logical reasoning kind of a thing, getting 50 marks may be considered like, you should improve, right? So you think that awareness?
Yeah, that's the whole reason again. It's again the policies. If those systems are changed, then the parents will change. Because the parents are, if they are hard pressing on the marks, it's because they want to secure their child's future. Because the child's future depends on the marks. It's not that the parents are not aware nowadays. If they enter a school for admission, most of the admission people will say, they'll start to ask, so what are you doing about STEM? Do you have robotics in your curriculum? These are questions that parents are asking, and they're demanding it if the school doesn't have it. A good population of it, not necessarily all. But again, what is restricting the parents, that they want all this, but they even want the marks. They want all this, but don't disturb the grade 12 children. Don't disturb the grade 10 children. In fact, I have that don't have investiture and don't have head boy, head girl coming from grade 10 and grade 12. So you're not even allowing them for those exposures. But why? It's not that they don't want it. It's because they understand the children has to go for tuitions. The children has to prepare for boards, which is again, practice last 10 years question paper and you're going to rock. What are you teaching them? Last 10 years question papers and you will rock? Then that means I am actually mugging them, because the child doesn't have the thinking time in the exam paper. You either know it or you don't know it. So if you've done 10 years paper, you know it. So the whole parent's mindset will change if our assessments and curriculum is changed at that level. So that's where I would argue.
But this actually identifies a key problem, doesn't it? Because in terms of international benchmarks, we're always looking at the TIMSS assessments, the PISA assessment, the PEARLS assessment, which of course they're absolutely fundamentally important. I get that. But where's the international benchmark for engineering, for technology? Where is when should I say, is the international benchmark for AI, for computer science coming in? And this is another gap that we need to consider. And I think, to your point, when students and parents are chasing the marks for the content aspect of subjects to get the grade, to get to the next point they want to get to, they need to be as ambitious and see it as an important fundamental need to chase the marks for being an effective learner and having those learning skills that need to be reported out on, and perhaps at a local level, at a national level, and even at an international level through the benchmarks. And then when we talk about the SDGs, for example, and the global problems that we have to solve, it might actually help us get to that point of solving them, because we need the skills to do so. And this will address the workforce gap that you mentioned before, where certain countries who are ahead of the curve when it comes to innovation, they're the ones that are taking on board all of the graduates who can do the job, and then other countries are getting left behind. So in certain countries, to even see a doctor and to get an appointment is getting to be almost impossible, because the workforce is shifting according to the countries that are putting this front and center as a national challenge.
Actually, see, when you're saying that some parents are satisfied with 50% and others are pressurizing their children to get 100%, we have to overall see how a country like China, I was seeing a small program on China, the infrastructure, they were able to build a 1.5 kilometer huge bridge which they wanted to improve and strengthen in 43 hours. It's impossible, and they've shown the video in slow motion how they did this, because they have gone back. The students in schools and colleges, they are not pressurized to get marks. See, they try to identify a child, even of 7 or 8, what capability and creativity has got in a particular field. They take that child and train him separately. They're not going to go through the regular education. Each child is taken according to his mindset, what he is interested, and they develop that child into that line. That is how they're able to do something fantastic which nobody is able to do. That they are far ahead. So we need to even take a clue from them.
Right. So, Safa, to you, one of the questions was, how do you integrate creativity, arts or humanities into STEM in a way that's not just tokenistic, but actually boosts innovation?
Okay. So creativity can't be stapled. It needs to be wired in from the very first. This is the first thing. I'll share an experience what we had in our school. Our grade 12 students, they decided to present or showcase something for a Mother of Nation festival here in Abu Dhabi. So the idea was to develop technology, tracing the hydrating wristband. So we paired them, rather than making them working alone, we paired them with the fashion design team from Zayed University students even. What we came up was, long story short, there were debates talking about the sparkle levels, about the wrist comfort, about the, even beige is a good color in UAE. So, when empathy And, the human element comes along with, and the aesthetics, of course, comes with the innovation. It comes, at the end, it was a beautiful product. It was not just a gadget. So this comes, sometimes not just innovation, but also the human element needs to be there.
So the cultural context does play a role as well, right? So I mean, this would be, I think we are running short on time. Maybe to all the panelists as a closing remark. So if you were given I'll start with you, Dr. Hughes. If you were given a clean slate, no boards, no constraints, no bureaucracy, right? What would your version of STEM education look like?
I think I would start from scratch, work with industrialists and universities, academics, school leaders, teachers to really develop an integrated STEM curriculum, but also think about different qualification pathways, different routes to that STEM, if you like, understanding. So then we can actually see the fundamental connection between the subjects rather than it being through even like cross-curricular links in lessons, for example, where we attempt to always refer to the real world. Well, let's make the learning actually in the real world. And I do think that, in integrating industrial experience, work experience more regularly, frequently throughout the child's learning will get them to be in a better place to actually go into academic, studies and industry placements and work-related learning, to be successful. So it's kind of start again. Don't throw out the good practice that we all know and we see on a daily basis, but then reshape it into being something that's much more meaningful and integrated, and really sort of collaborate both locally, nationally and internationally, so we can bring best practice from wherever it is in the world into your school, into your curriculum for your children.
I think to sum up, we have to train our teachers. For example, as you said, without any infrastructure, if you're going to make your students come to that level, we need to first see what the teachers are capable of. Unless you train them to think critically, think of advancements of creativity, it is not going to be possible. They are going to do that and teach the children. First, we have to change the teaching staff, the education department, then only you will see the results on the student level. For them to get to that level, ultimately, they're going to get they'll be able to be a positive thing in the industry.
Okay, so your question was with no constraint, right? Okay, so I would initially group the students not by their age, but by their curiosity. So maybe if you would walk in, you would see a 12-year-old child coding an echo drone with a retired engineer. Maybe you would see a 16-year-old child 3D painting edible cutlery for the Mars mission. It's the future world. So that would be a chaos. And maybe the walls, they could write on the walls, the school canteens to be run by the students who are testing chemistry experiments. So it would be chaos, but that would be a joyful learning experience for them for the future. Okay.
Building on what my colleagues have said, if there were no constraints, the dream school that I could have, I would actually not want subjects to be taught as subjects. So every term, so of course then there are no assessments. And if there are assessments, the assessment has to be of a different nature. So if subjects are taught rather than teaching in silos, we have, say, every term we can have a big problem, a real life thing, and which the children have to solve. And as they solve that problem through the term, they are learning the maths concepts, the language concepts, the science concepts that are required for the children of that age group typically, to solve the problem at the end. So definitely it will be a collaborative task. When we are doing collaborative tasks, we are building on our soft skills. But at the end, we will feel that how do we know our children have got it? So there has to be some kind of an assessment. But this assessment, again, when it is, even though if it is individual, it need not be as if what did you learn in as a maths concept. It can be a very reflective. What were the challenges you faced while you were working? In which topic you faced that challenge? If you faced that challenge, how did you overcome that challenge? So the questions are very reflective, where the child is actually going through the experiences of that term, recalling those experiences, and then making out meaningful learning out of that. So each term, it could be that way. And yes, the way my colleague Ms. Safa was talking about, that it can be in the canteen, it can be in the playground, and we can mix and match children. That is an idea I got just now. So that was something I really got excited about. And so I thought, let's add it to my dream school if I have one. Thank you.
So yeah, so I hope this discussion has brought a bright spark, positive spark to the entire thing, and very insightful. So a big round of applause to all the panelists here. So very insightful. So thank you very much. Yeah.